Instructions for accessing subtitles in a language other than English are included on our board meetings webpage as well as in the description below. Instrucciones para acceder a los subtítulos en un idioma que no sea el inglés se incluyen en nuestra página web de reuniones de la Junta, así como en la descripción a continuación.
Okay, good evening and welcome to the Ross Valley School District Board of Trustees regular meeting. Today is April 17th, 2024, and I'm calling our meeting to order at 7:59. We have all 5 trustees present at the school district office today. Myself, Shelley Hamilton, Chris Landles-Cobb, Daniel Cassidy, and Ryan O'Neill. We also have our cabinet members present, God, I keep saying president today. Superintendent Trahan, Chris Carson, Julia Walcott, Eric Sable, and Teresa Machado. So our meeting is being live streamed via YouTube, and the link's on our website and on the agenda. There will be a 60-second delay between the meeting and the YouTube live stream. An audio recording of the meeting will be made available to the public on our district website within 72 hours following the meeting. So with that, I'm going to move on to our procedural items. The first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. You can just join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and moving on, it is time to adopt the agenda and time allocations. Would somebody?
I would like to make a note
sorry.
related to the consent agenda items 2 through 5, related to the recommended ratification of financial statement, warrant summary report, regular budget transfer, and district contracts under or over. They all have them in February. The attachments are correct, and they are for March 2024, not February. So if we can adopt the agenda with that amendment.
Perfect. All right.
Okay, well, I will move to adopt the agenda and time allocations along with the amendment Superintendent Trahan has just mentioned.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Okay.
All right, motion is second. Chris?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Daniel?
Aye.
Rachel? Aye. All right, we have an adopted agenda. Moving on to communication. Is there public comment on items not on the open session agenda today? And it looks like we have no public comment, so moving on. We have correspondence and communication to the board. There are several items there, and I'm assuming my colleagues have all read through everything on there. Thank you. And moving on to D, presentation and or action items. The first item we have is the recommended adoption of Resolution 07-2324 in recognition of Staff Appreciation Week, May 6th through 10th, 2024.
All right, and our Assistant Superintendent, Julia Walcott, will take this one this evening.
All right, yes. So each year, the Board of Trustees designates a week in May as Ross Valley School District Staff Appreciation Week to commemorate, acknowledge, recognize, and appreciate the ongoing contributions of all of our district's professional staff on behalf of our students. And this is inclusive of both our classified employees and our certificated employees. And that week, this year is May 6th through May 10th, and you have a resolution before you.
All right.
And so we're recommending that the board adopt the resolution.
Perfect. All right. Do we have any questions here from the board? All right.
Is this done every year? This week is allocated for staff
Yes.
appreciation. Is it always in May?
It's always in May. The like kind of national and official weeks are different for classified and certificated, but we look at all of our staff
Great.
and appreciate all of our staff, and so we typically bring both together and designate a week. And there's activities at sites. Yes,
Wonderful. Thank you.
always in May, always this time of year.
All right. Anyone else? Any public comment? No? All right, no public comment.
I only have,
Oh, actually.
my only thought for the future would also be,
The mic.
I know, but it goes on the recording. Anyhow, definitely, and then the involvement of the parent clubs as well in this week. I know that things happen on the sites with that, but I don't know whether we've ever done like a resolution and they do resolutions with us or something that would kind of show the unity of board and administration, who are also staff, which we very much appreciate, but also parents and communities, like to bring it all together would be great. I don't know how we do that, maybe at the
Thinking like
round
a golden bell thing, like have them here at the meeting, or
maybe something like that, just a thought for the future, or something to like make it a whole community thing too.
I like that.
Anyone else? No comments? All right, so if there's no more discussion, no public comment, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the Resolution 72324 in recognition of Staff Appreciation Week for May 6th to the 10th, 2024.
Lovely. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
One second.
All right, motion and a second. Daniel?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Rachel? Aye. So we have adopted Resolution 72324. Thank you. And moving on, we have item 2, which is approve contract with Godbe Research to conduct a parcel tax measure feasibility survey. And I believe that is Chris.
Yes. So this evening, what you have on before you is, we talked about it very briefly in our earlier special board meeting. Just that the district is looking at potentially going out for either an updated, a new parcel tax or a supplemental parcel tax. And this firm would go out to our local taxpayers and would then be able to survey them based upon whatever rates we decide that we would need in order to get the additional dollars that the district is potentially looking at. And I don't know, Marcy, did you want to share anything else?
No, I think you said it. It's, and I think in our, just knowing that our current parcel tax is $679, knowing that our parcel tax goes to pay for teacher salaries, and we are definitely looking to increase our employees' salaries, is we have to look at generating revenues. And one of the ways that we can do that is to take a look at our passing a parcel tax with our community. Our current one is $679 per parcel. It goes through 2028, June of 2028. So we do have the ability to do a supplemental parcel tax, add on to the current one. There are a couple of ways to look at doing this, but really going out and getting an understanding from our community as to what would be a passable amount. We would need to increase our current parcel tax in order to continue to increase revenues into this school district, which then helps, as we know, our parcel tax pays for employee salaries or teacher salaries specifically. And so we want to be sure that we have that revenue stream coming into the district. Our current one brings in approximately $4.6 million. And so to lose that amount of revenue on a budget that is at 30 million, close to it, it would be very detrimental to our school district. So we really need to understand what it's going to take for us to be able to pass a supplemental parcel tax and to keep that revenue stream going.
So can I just ask about, will the feasibility study do the pain threshold level? Like, they'll be able to say, what's your breaking point, so we can know how much we can raise, right? And my second question is, I know that this Godbe, is that how you pronounce it, has done this for other parcel taxes. What's their success rate and predictability? Do we know that?
They also did our GO bonds, our two earliest GO bonds.
So have they ever said, this looks good, go for it, and then when places have gone for it, they haven't passed? Have they ever had any
Well, they're
near misses or hits? No hits?
That's a complex question, I think, because what they might be doing in their feasibility study of what would be passable in our school, by our voters, is then it's the actual implementation of that parcel tax campaign that is going to help to ensure that it passes.
I see.
And so they may have predicted everything perfectly, but it's the implementation of the campaign that's absolutely critical. But we do need to know what is the threshold that we know will pass. We know that sustaining 679 is not, it has to increase. And so we need to know what is that level that our taxpayers and our voters will approve.
Or we need to know,
Yes.
you're not gonna get it to increase, in which case we'll have to have other conversations.
The question I think that you're asking would be more appropriate to the consultants for who actually help on the campaigns, because that's a question I would absolutely want to ask of a campaign consultant. In the past for Measure E, we didn't use that at our RVSD. We just did it with community members leading it. I know other districts have used consultants for campaigns, and that is, you're paying for their service, so those are the people that you want to be able to have a high pass rate for their campaigns.
Okay.
Because they're the ones taking the information from these consultants, from these feasibility studies, and figuring out what you should be putting on your
Crafting
campaign.
messages and
Yeah.
Are we going to engage a consultant that's,
I
So
don't know.
the district would not be able to hire the consultant directly. That would have to be the
You'd have-
committee.
we can hire the feasibility consultant.
Correct.
But we can't hire the campaign consultant.
Because we
Correct.
can't
Okay.
Because we
participate in
cannot-
campaign.
Be
We
running
cannot
this.
advocate for the passage of a parcel tax as a district. We can as individuals outside of the workday, but we could not.
And then community members come together to pay that consultant and raise the money for that campaign? Okay.
Yes. And what will end up happening with this feasibility study, they will give us, within certainty, like a percentage, they'll say within plus or minus 5%, for example, we expect a 60% pass rate. And what ends up happening is you look at that and go, okay, well, we would need a 55% to pass, so there is a possibility that it could fail. So that's the type of data that we'll get from it.
We needed 2/3 passing rate.
I'm thinking of
It's-
geo.
Yeah, for a parcel tax, it's higher.
66.7%.
Yes.
66.7.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Are we looking for opinions here?
Like on whether we should hire a consultant, feasibility consultant?
Yes.
That's what we're-
No, I mean, I like the idea. I'm just wondering if this is the time to weigh.
I think this is the time of the topic area where the presentation is finished, unless now it's time for questions,
Yes.
so I think this
my-
is a question period,
Yeah.
and then we go out to
Public
public
comment.
comment, then come
Okay.
back for.
The discussion,
Thank you.
right? No more questions?
I don't have any more questions
I don't
myself.
either. Public comment? Nope, no public comment. Okay, great, thank you. So you wanted to,
I
And
have
now
a couple
discuss.
concerns.
Oh, just a quick, the topic is, do we get a feasibility consultant to do a parcel tax, not what is our opinion on a parcel tax?
yes, so it's just on whether or not we want to hire
Feasibility
a research
consultant.
company to conduct parcel tax feasibility study, survey.
My concerns would be in line with that. I would say that the most important thing for me in hiring this person would be, are we going to give this person the amount and the time? Let me rephrase that. Is this the right time to put this type of thing? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to craft this perfectly. I think what I'm trying to say is that I'd like to know that we are going into this with an open mind, that we might not get the answers we want. As far as, is this the right time to do this? Because what we just saw happen with the other bond in TAM is eye-opening, that there is a threshold for the timing of when we want to do this, when we want to try to push this through. And I think we got to get it right. And I don't know if that's, do we decide to do that before we ask the consultant to do this, or is that why we're asking the consultant to do this?
In other words, does the consultant's consideration include scanning the environment for what else might be on the ballot?
Yes.
Like, are we talking specifically about a particular ballot in a particular
Mhm.
point in time?
Mhm.
Or are they doing this in a general with that consideration and saying, giving us a feedback, like if you go out in November, you've got blah, blah, blah
Yeah,
percentage.
right.
But if you wait till June,
Yeah.
then you might have a yada yada percentage. Does that?
Right, as
within the
opposed to
scope
just
of
saying,
this
go do
contract?
this and let's, yeah, that's exactly
Is
what I'm
that,
getting at.
is that within the scope of this contract, the
And they do
timing of
look
it?
at that type of
They do.
information as well, because this next November would be a presidential election, which is generally a better election for these types of,
Turnout.
in terms of turnout and the people that come out.
Will they also though consider what else might be on that ballot
They
that might
will.
compete with people?
They will.
They will, okay. So it sounds like it will take into consideration rather
Yeah.
than as a precondition of like, we're just looking at November, okay, that's
Or they
helpful.
could potentially
Right,
do
okay.
that as well. And it is a possibility that with the TAM district having just had their GO bond not pass, they could go out again.
Well, they're saying it right now in the paper that they are going out again and they're gonna go out in November, they're collecting signatures and they're gonna go for a lesser amount, and that's exactly why I bring this up.
Well, there's a likelihood that if it does come back and TAM is successful, we could piggyback on that success of, having that vote go. on the
And if we decide to go at the same time, maybe it conflicts, maybe that's too much.
I personally have voted in elections where I've seen 2 school initiatives, and my idea is like for the schools, right? So I don't fear having it on the same ballot. Does anybody else feel that way?
I think it would be helpful to get the
Their
expert's
input.
opinion on
Yeah.
that. I mean, there could be
Yeah.
pros and cons to it, and they could be
we
saying,
can
oh,
weigh
it's
that.
bond and yours
Right.
parcel tax, no problem. They could, I don't know what, I mean, they're gonna know.
They're gonna
So
know.
I think as long as they're gonna take that into consideration in their feasibility analysis,
Mhm.
in a local, not just general elections, presidential versus non-presidential, but specific to our local circumstances, I think that would be really helpful information.
Yeah.
And that might be a question that they ask the voters.
Right, so they could put that as a question.
Well, and is that district doing any type of polling as well? And could we
Oh.
piggyback, maybe it's this company doing that as well? Is there a way of piggybacking off of that other campaign?
Did
Because
they
there was
do
a big
TAM?
anti,
They did, Tam.
I believe that they're doing TAM, and so when they do this with us, having had a conversation with them, they would probably work it so that they're not out at the same time as well, in
That's
terms of
good.
the vote,
The question.
The
feasibility
The
studies.
study, the survey.
but I would like for them to, as they're talking to the TAM families as well, or maybe every family, to
So you're
also
talking
make sure.
about while they're talking about TAM.
Yeah,
about
like,
us as
oh, this
well.
is also coming up. Are you opposed to, or what? I know nothing, but are you opposed to both of these being on the ballot at the same time, or whatever they do with their expertise, incorporating both as options at the same time? What do they think about that? From our perspective,
We could talk to them
Yeah.
about that. And then the other thing might be to have, could we have conversations with the TAM administration in terms of what they learn?
I can reach out to my counterpart at the TAM district,
Yeah.
Corbett
Because the other part of it is the feed, the data that's being collected to kind of cross-tabulate the
Mhm.
data behind.
It says in the IJ, Tampa's Union District asked staff this week to investigate which Measure A bond projects could be trimmed. And then it goes on to say that new polling, if authorized, would be in advance a potential decision to retry the measure and place it on the November 5th ballot. The deadline to place a measure on the ballot is August 9th. So
They're kind of in the
So
same.
they're in the same
So
position.
if they do decide to do a poll, it would
Yeah.
probably be the same firm.
So my
sounds familiar, is that right?
so my question then is,
that's good writing.
do we want to reach out to TAM first because we are part of their district, like our
Yes, we overlap.
yes, but we're a much smaller subsection of it. I wonder if they would be willing to go in on us with this as opposed to like
Oh.
us doing the
They're
full thing.
different.
Would they not be able
They
to?
would be
It would
different.
be completely
completely
different,
different. Oh, 'cause they're
because
looking
one
for
is a
bonds,
geo
not-
bond and
okay.
the other is a parcel.
Oh,
And they
right.
may end up
But I do
competing.
think coordinating makes a lot of sense, so that it's
Yeah.
not like everybody's getting surveyed on the same Tuesday kind of thing. Or maybe everybody should be surveyed on the same Tuesday, I don't know, but having that, if they're using the same company, it's a
Yeah.
good thing, because they can coordinate that, however it's appropriate to coordinate.
And I
Is
actually
it apples
reached,
and oranges?
I'd actually reached out to Corbett, and Corbett gave me the name of the firm that they use for the Measure A, Mr. Ellison, and so
Okay.
that's why I knew that it was them as well.
Okay.
And then in
And is
in
this
the
a not to exceed contract?
So the amounts that are there, and we have the ability to decide the length of the survey, so you can tell me which would.
Do we need to do that tonight, or is do we give you a not to exceed? Is that part of our decision tonight?
If you could do a not to exceed, that would be wonderful, then we know that.
Well, what would their recommendation be? Like, what's the difference between an 18-minute survey and a 25-minute survey?
Okay, so wait, just
Math.
is somebody really going to be sitting on the phone asking
Yeah.
18 minutes worth of
People
questions?
saying,
Can we get
okay.
this shorter? Because that seems really long to me. I'd be like, I'm done. I gotta go. Like
My guess is that 18 minutes is probably
the number of questions that they shoot at them.
no, not a FaceTime number. It's not a gross. It's not the actual.
Okay.
Well, maybe not. I would. Maybe it's not the actual number of minutes on the phone with the person, but
I think it's the hybrid, like how much time it takes you to do the survey they sent plus the follow-up with the phone call. I don't think the phone call's 18 minutes long.
All of the elements that are broken down there under like listed voter telephone sample all the way to down to miscellaneous expenses, you can see that the amounts change based on where the minutes at the top. So as I was reading this, my guess was the same thing. It's an amalgam or a compilation of all of the elements. And so what you get is you get more time, if you will, as your cost increases. So you can see under the 18 minutes under the internet version programming testing. If you go with the 18, it's 5,700. The 20 minutes, it's 6,000, and then 6,250 on up to 65. So when you look at it that way, I think it depends on the strategy they're using, is the breakdown of the minutes.
So,
And I think if we give a not to exceed at the upper end, then as we're working with them on those questions, the time might actually come out of that.
Part of my feeling on this is it's not a straightforward extension and it's not a straightforward supplement.
Right.
It's something that's a little bit of both. So it adds a bit of a complication to, I think, some of the polling element. Because it's not just, would you renew something going forward? It's renew and increase.
Yeah, and the other part that I would think would be very interesting to have too is the information related to the timing, as you all were talking about. We also need to be sure that we are backwards planning from June 2028 in terms of the expiration of the current parcel tax. And so we need to know how many potential bites at the apple, if you will, is it going to take us to pass it? And so we want to know, because if we go for the renew and expand and that doesn't work, we're going to need to go. We might want to go back for just a renew, because
So this is what I'm talking about. Like, I think we have to hire the professionals. This is not what we do. If we want to be successful, we go to someone who's going to get us to be successful, and we have to trust that information and then have those discussions. Because I'm very concerned with timing, amount we're asking for, and the overall goal of getting it passed has to be the priority. I'm not capable of knowing how that is. So I would very much be in favor of spending. And in times where we just talk about how we can save money, there's penny wise, pound foolish, and we can really do the right thing here. But I think this is money well spent to make sure we get this right.
And I also know that, we're riding on the high interest and enthusiasm of our parent community and our, of course, teachers who live here and are voters. But a large population of San Anselmo and Fairfax do not have children in our schools. And so those are the folks that, we can poll our parents for, would you vote for this? But as you just said, Ryan, to have that capability of going out and seeing what the voter base is willing to do is what's needed to pass it.
which is my question, and the sample survey and of 400, that's how many they're anticipating doing the survey for. And so I'm assuming they picked 400 with some sort of whatever
Random.
average in mind, knowing how big our community is, what our population is. And then do they survey more people in the district, or like citizens that don't have kids in the district, or how do they determine that? And can the contract
it
change
is-
if we say, we'd like more people than 400?
Oh, yes, you could, but I will tell you, you probably won't get that much better information. And I will also say that for the TAM bond, I personally was surveyed. And so I received something. Because I think what they do is they look at the likely voters.
Oh.
They look at a certain number of likely voters, and they know that with my history, I vote.
So which you can find out from the voter
Yes.
registration thing.
Yeah.
I do remember that from prior conversations, they do look at.
Can we ask them, because I know you can get those lists through the registrar of voters of likely voters, and then you can also look at households and households with age groupings so that you can kind of figure out which households are likely voters and don't have young kids in the house, if you wanted to really get a sense of
I mean, we can start asking them those questions. I don't know what level of detail they'll be able to get, how granular they'll be able to get down to.
Okay.
But we can certainly ask those questions.
I think we should, I'm in support of getting the expertise to do this for feasibility. I think we kind of have to before we just say, hey, let's go ahead and do a parcel tax.
Well, I said earlier during the special meeting when this topic came up, I've got experience working on 4 parcel taxes in the past, and one of the 4 did not pass. And when I was working on the social media side of things, it was because they had misread the situation on how much they were able to ask for, and it flopped. And they were able to go back with that feedback and pass it the next time around. And so, for me, we didn't have to do this last time for Measure E for Ross Valley School District because it was a straight renewal, which is a much simpler scenario than we have here. And it was a lower amount that we were requesting for an annual increase. It was 3% versus the 4% that we had had for the prior 10 years. And so that was a much simpler prospect to get passed by the public. And I think it was like a 73 or 74% pass
Very high.
rate. It was extremely high.
Yeah.
I also know that in general, parcel taxes are much more likely to pass than bonds for school districts. And so that makes me hopeful, but given the fact that this is a very complex situation that we're looking at, and it is to benefit our teachers and to help us provide salary increases, I think that we should spend the money on this, as much as I hate doing that right now when I'm like looking at these dollar amounts. I do think it's worth it in this case to make sure that we find an amount that we can ask for from our community that will realistically help us out and won't fail.
And there are organizations out there that are watching how, cost, for example, was a very big opponent because they didn't feel as though their threshold for common sense was being met. And so I think it's just wise knowing what we could be up against if we don't get this right, to make sure we get it right.
Precisely. And that might be a good group for me to reach out to as well, because I absolutely value what they believe and think, and they're influential, and I think that it'd be important for us to make sure that we're asking for an amount that the community will feel is reasonable and be willing to pass for us. So do we have any further discussion? If not, I'm happy to entertain a motion.
Rachel, I totally trust your experience and I think your viewpoint on why this is needed. If they come back to us and they say now is not the right time, we're potentially staring down the barrel of having to re-engage them, doubling the amount of our commitment, right?
Well, but they might come back to us and say, now is not the right time, you should do it
In March.
in June, or you should wait a year, and I don't know that would we have to do it again?
Well, my
or how
question
long?
is, do they have services that if they say they determine it's not the right time, the amount that we spend today, how much leash does that have for us to utilize their viewpoint later?
So the way that I anticipate looking at this is having them tier the dollar amounts, and with the 400 sample size, what they will be able to do is give us an idea of where that happy medium is, where we're more likely to pass.
And I think what I hear Chris saying, though, is that in the event that the data that they receive back through their survey methods results in
Don't do it.
don't do it in November 2024, then for how long is their data valid? That they just went out and gathered and determined that the threshold would be this.
Right.
That's a good
So-
point.
Are they asking questions with a longer lens? If it's not good in November, would it be good in X? Because that will save us a lot going forward if we have to re-engage to figure out when we can do it again.
I don't think you would have to re-engage with them again if it's within a relatively short period, unless you went out and it failed. And then you would probably want to look at why. And that would be the reason that you would go back out and re-engage with them. And you could also re-engage with another firm if you really chose.
So let me ask, what, just rough back of the napkin back mapping, like you said. So, because you've done this. So the parcel tax expires June of 2028. So you're obviously not going to put it on the June 2028 ballot, right? The cutting it close would be the November 2028 ballot. That'd be
Still,
biting
too
probably
late.
too late. So then you go back to June of 2027. I'm just kind of going, right, so say maybe your last ditch effort is June of 2027. When do you need to then start the campaign? I mean, what I'm getting at is if you have to start the campaign in June of 2027, so you have to start the campaign, I don't know, December of 2026. Hello, that's coming up in a year and a half.
Yeah.
I'm back mapping up to like, this probably is going to be valid if we do it now in June of 2024 through June of 2025 through December of 2026. You know where I'm going? And I'm thinking about you with timing and if you have any insight into that, Rachel.
The ones that I've worked on, it's a shorter time frame from when you start the campaign to when the election is. It's about 3.5 months-ish.
Okay.
So it's a pretty short run up to the election because.
But that's the launch of the campaign, not the planning for the campaign.
But also, don't we want
Or is
to
that-
take the feedback that they may decide to put it on the November ballot because maybe, I don't know the answer to this, but maybe we want a better turnout because that's going to work more in our favor, or as opposed to, the turnout that we got last election was quite poor.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to get this time frame between where we are now and where the last, like how long would this data be valid for to when we would launch?
I'm taking notes, and I think that these are all fantastic questions. And when Chris reaches back out to them, if you do approve them tonight, or even if you don't, I guess the questions are still valid. But to ask all of these questions, and I think the idea that someone asked early on, if we were to go up to a not to exceed, then what it also allows us to do with the questions is get at, okay, if we have a not to exceed rather than a specific choosing of an 18, 20, 22, and so on, then based on the questions and their answers, they might be better able to help us know what our concerns are and how to figure out what we should do.
I would say
And-
we do it as soon as possible because maybe if we're gonna do this, and I think that there's good feedback that we all kind of like the way that this is possible. I think that we would be foolish to maybe miss an opportunity.
what's our deadline to put this on the ballot, date-wise?
I think it's August 9th.
August? It's August. Okay, sorry, I missed
And
that.
they said this takes how long? It says on here, 3.
It's 4 to 6 weeks, I think was the number.
Plus,
Okay,
plus you got time to campaign.
Report.
Yeah,
so
the
that's
time frame to
now.
complete the
Yeah.
survey process
That's
and
now.
receive the
That's now.
report is 8 weeks.
Okay,
That's
so
like we say,
that's
yes,
like-
you go, we
that's
get
like-
it on, we do a
So
campaign,
we
we're
to
hustling.
sit on this would be negligent.
Yeah, could be.
So I think we need to make a decision because.
I make a
we're-
motion.
Yeah, okay. I will
But
second.
now, the question, thank you, we do have to figure out, I mean, the high end here that they're proposing is 36,425, and that's for a 25-minute, whatever. that
Process.
Process. So if we do a not to exceed 36,425, we could, and we have to like do some, hey, could you add a supplement for this, or could you add 600 instead of 400, or could you do this or that? We could always bring it down to, okay, the 20-minute, let's do 20 minutes, but with this extra, whatever it is that we might need from these questions. Could you make sure that this is valid for 2 more years in case,
Yeah.
or something like that?
Yeah, and what's the
We could,
percent of knowledge 18 minutes versus 25? Like, what are we really paying? Are they 99% sure of their opinion at 25 minutes, but only 90% sure of their opinion at 18 minutes?
Who makes that decision of what we're gonna spend? Does it come back to us?
We're
or
talking
does it not?
$3,000, less than $3,000 differential between the two.
Maybe that's right now, and
So-
we can't switch it later, we can't give you a not to exceed, but you can just, can we delegate?
Yeah, it's a
you?
not to exceed, so he could
So
come
you
in
can
at
just say come at
33.
31.
He just can't go, we just can't go over 36.
So, okay, so we approve the,
We could prove the
approve the 36 and
36,425.
then give him the ability to do what he thinks, give him direction to say
Based
whatever
on-
he thinks is in your best practices to make sure that we get don't leave anything on the table.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the budget, we approve the contract for Godbe Research to conduct a parcel tax measure feasibility survey with a not to exceed budget of $36,425.
Second.
Motion and a second. Shelley?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Daniel?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Rachel? Aye.
Let's go.
Positive move. Let's get some money out of here, people.
All right, with that, moving on to E, consent actions. We've already had the edit that Marcy mentioned about the dates for items 2 through 5. Does anybody else have any changes to those edits? No? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
A motion, do I have a second?
Second?
All right, motion and a second. Ryan?
Aye.
Chris?
Yeah,
Daniel?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Rachel, aye. All right, so consent actions have passed. Moving on to board business. I have committee updates and reports from announcements by trustees.
we had our Ajiba meeting this week to discuss the yellow bus service through Marin Transit. We arrived at an agreement, and we are happy that they have taken the lottery away. They are looking to provide a very streamlined service on the buses. Their service numbers are at about 99%. They predict that the drivers will continue to be employed, so the service should continue to be heightened into the next year. They fixed all the glitches, and so it was a productive meeting, and that's what I have. Unless you have something to add.
All the issues ironed out with the app?
We didn't talk about the app.
No, I don't know that the app will be part of unless they can really get those worked out. But just in terms of the on-time rating as well as the, if there's like a substitute bus needed, sub-bus drivers, so working out all of that so there's more on-time percentage increase. And they also, if there's talking, so part of that plan is to eliminate the service in Fairfax in the AM and the PM. And then on the way back, there would be no service on Sir Francis Drake. So it would really serve the Butterfield. And this is for Whitehill. So Hidden Valley, no change at all. But for Whitehill, the service would support Butterfield, Memorial Park, the Hub, and there's one more.
San Francisco.
San Francisco, thank you. And so that's what that would do. The part that's really nice in addition to eliminating the need for the lottery is that there will be 4 buses running, and there would not be a need for buses to circle back and pick up the students, which means that when the bell rings and the students go out for their bus, there will not be a need for anybody. They will all be off campus within 10 to 15 minutes, all of the students who ride the bus. So, and they are also looking at doing what they've been able to do historically, is to have a cleanup bus. And what that bus would do is, in the event there were any kids who missed the bus, the office would call the transportation company and let them know. And because the bus is contracted, the driver is contracted for a certain amount of time, they can swing back by the schools should that be needed to pick up any students who did not make a bus that day.
Do we have any other trustee updates or
I'm gonna put a pitch in for Wednesday, May 29th is the Lorraine County School Boards Association end of year meeting and gathering. That's open to any school board members. And our assembly member, Assembly member Damon Connolly is gonna be there.
So May 29th?
That's a board.
It's a board meeting night.
5:30 to 7:30, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll be doing our board business.
Scratch that one. All right, well, if anyone else, Daniel? Ryan? Okay, so I did go to the Hidden Valley open house 2 weeks ago, like right before our break started. It was a lot of fun. It's like my kids' school, so when they went to elementary, that was their school. It was really great to stop in all the classrooms and see all the activities they're working on. My younger child came with me because she really wanted to see her school again, and see she ran across a bunch of other 7th graders, girls who were all deciding to do the same thing, and they were kind of going in a pack through all classrooms. But we got to see all her former classrooms and the other ones as well, which is a lot of fun. And they had done some great work, and I love how much effort goes into those open houses. It's really great to see all the stuff they put on display. And I just want to say thank you to those teachers, because I know it's a lot of effort, and it was just a great experience to walk through and say hi and take a look at all the stuff. So that's all for me. Do you have any more committee updates? If not, I will move along. All right, so item number 2 under board business is approval of the regular meetings minutes for March 27th, 2024. So anyone have comments on this? No public comments, no changes? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Do you want a motion for both minutes? Or just the March 27th?
Just March 27th.
Okay, well, I will make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes for the March 27th, 2024 board meeting.
All right, thank you.
I'll second it.
First, then second. Okay, so Chris.
Aye.
Daniel.
Aye.
Shelley.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Rachel. Aye. All right, so those are approved. And then moving on to approval of special meeting minutes for March 28th, 2024. Any public comment? No? Comment up here? No? All right. So I will entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the special meeting minutes for March 28th, 2024.
Great.
Second.
Motion and a second. Chris.
Aye.
Shelley.
Aye.
Ryan.
Abstain.
Daniel.
Aye.
And Rachel. Aye. All right. So those are approved. And now we have superintendent and cabinet report.
All right, thank you. And tonight we'll start with Director of Student Services, Eric Sable.
I'm on a roll. I've been first many evenings, and I think Mr. Carson and Ms. Wolcott are starting to get mad about that. But they would only say that behind my back. So tomorrow will be our inaugural Wellness and Mental Health Committee meeting, inaugural for not just this year, but for the last stretch of years. So we're really excited to get that committee back up and going. Mr. Carson and I will co-facilitate that. So tomorrow's going to be really exciting. We have staff representatives, student representatives, some of our wellness ambassadors from the middle school will be with us as well. And we envision this as, getting this back into the architecture of what we're doing year over year in the district. And there, we're guided, of course, by board policy. Part of that includes looking at nutrition practices. Part of it looks at the physical education program, and also we're going to have a very clear focus on mental health as a part of this team's work. So we're very excited to share with the trustees and community moving forward what that work entails. And on a related note, we have scheduled for the May meeting a presentation on kind of the state of affairs with wellness practices in the district, TK through 8. So I'm excited to collaborate with our wellness team to bring that to you in May. And otherwise, just kind of it's the spring scramble with transition meetings. So our team's working really hard on that. And So just a shout out to all our colleagues, teachers and staff who are working so hard to support our students.
Eric, I will say that I sat through your video for puberty education for the 5th graders. Thank you for doing that. And I will commend the staff that is currently doing that, as I do have a 5th grader who is coming home in the evening and is quite engaged in talking about what he is learning. So,
and you're feeling more prepared to kind of, right, meet that moment maybe with thanks to that.
perhaps, and I'm sure he's texting. Thank you.
And student services rests on that note.
All right, thank you. Julia Walcott, Assistant Superintendent of Ed Services.
Okay. I too got to go to open house before the break, both for Wade Thomas and Hidden Valley, which were scheduled on the same evening. So I was moving very quickly, but actually was able to visit every classroom in both of those sites. And there's just such an incredible feeling during open house. It's such a joyful time seeing parents and kids and teachers all celebrating the incredible work from the year. So looking forward to Brookside tomorrow evening, and then Manor a little bit later down the line. I can't remember the date. Yeah. And then coming up, we've been talking about our English Language Arts pilot, looking for instructional materials, and we have our next release day coming up next week. And on that day, the bulk of the day, we're looking at 5 different instructional programs. We've eliminated 1 out of 6. So we're taking this very seriously and very slowly. Teachers are really digging into the materials. And next week on Tuesday, all 5 publishers are going to be presenting more and answering questions on their programs so that we can really make an informed decision about which program we want to pilot in the fall. And the 17 teachers that are doing that work are just incredible, amazing and thoughtful and super, super knowledgeable. And we also have a large number of teachers who are piloting iReady, which is a reading diagnostic assessment. And we are just starting the end of year assessment. So we started our pilot mid-year, and so the first assessment that students took was the middle of year assessment. Now they'll take the end of year assessment, and it's really great when you get these 2 data points because you can look at growth and see how our students have progressed. So we're excited about that. And we had on March 28th our first parent education evening with Dr. Lori Watson. The topic was basically around how to talk to your kids about race. And she's just such a phenomenal speaker. I know some of you have interacted with her. She's also working with our White Hill Kids, a student-led anti-racism group called SLAM. And her next event with us will be on May 7th. And so we're hoping to get even more of a turnout. The last one was at Manor, and we had maybe 40 or 50 parents. I mean, it was a robust group, much more so than some of our other parent evenings.
Yeah.
And then we're going to shift the next one to Brookside so that we're kind of spreading the love in that way, and hoping to get more folk. But it's really an incredible evening. A 2-hour, 5:30 to 7:30 presentation, and principals are communicating the details of that out to their sites so that folks know where to be. We serve pizza and drinks and cookies.
And are students involved too, or just parents? Just a parent education?
Parents, but we do have childcare. So we had actually a large number of our families brought their kids. We had some White Hill kids providing childcare, and because we had so many kids, at the next one we're planning to also have some adults supervising the childcare along with our White Hill kiddos.
And I've been in one of their trainings. Is it a similar, very interactive kind of track? Because I know some of them are very much more get up and move around and then kind of.
There was a lot of kind of turn and talk and really kind of dig into our own experiences, but I think that you've probably been to the ones that are full day.
Yeah.
So there's a little less of that interaction, but I don't know, it's kind of riveting just listening and you know, that personal equity journey that we're all on never ends, and it's great to dig into, and she's an incredible mentor to help us do that.
Great.
And that is it from Ed Services.
Thank you. And Chris Carson,
Yes.
business official.
So I know that we're only in the middle of April, but I'm already thinking, and my division is already thinking about the summer and what we do during the summer. And 2 weeks ago during the break, I met with all of our custodial staff, and it was an excellent meeting where the staff was providing feedback to us on how best to get the school sites deep cleaned and ready for the start of the school year. And so the staff is really looking forward to getting that going, and we blink and we'll be there and starting everything anew. And so that was one of the things that we did during the last several weeks.
I was just want to say, I was thinking about this and you and our custodial staff. So in my day job, I'm on a lot of campuses, high school campuses all over the county. And I was on one recently, and I won't say which one, and I was like, it was a comparative look. It's like, wow, our campuses are really awesome looking. And so I just wanted to say thank you. And there was this comment earlier tonight about people moving in our community, that sense of safety, but part of that sense of safety is space and like how we interact with the spaces that we're in and how they make us feel. And I think our custodial staff and our business and our operations staff do just such a great job. And it really makes a difference. And it's stuff that people you don't know it when you don't see it. You only know it when you see it and go, ugh, right? And so it's kind of one of those things that you're doing a great job when nobody says thank you. So thank you.
And if I could just add to that, it ties into the fact that it's not just teachers. It's not just administrators. You know, it's every little piece of the puzzle that makes up this district and doing work before anyone sees it or knows it has to be done. And it really is a collective about all of us. And although some people can point to, this might be the most important today and this group might be, it's truly everyone. And everyone, I say it a lot, all boats rise with the same tide. And it's really those type of people that need to be counted and heard and noticed and thanked. And great job for bringing all that ahead of it. You're doing a great job.
I will add that the custodial staff is like the family that keeps the glue of the school together. But all those kids wore hats last week to thank Mr. Alex and give him a birthday present. And the way, Mr. Toto walks through in Brookside and everyone's high-fiving him and, and I see Johnny in the truck and I'm waving and the kids are waving. It's a great community of staff that really puts the pride, I think, with the kids too. They really keep the schools, they have pride in the school's grounds, I think, because of their relationship with them. This is great work.
Do you want to say all that with the microphone on?
It is on.
They're not using them.
No, we're not even using them. So I echo what Chris said as I was trying to give her a hard time. Yeah, the kids had a great time last week with Mr. Alex. It was fantastic. A couple of kids spoke about what he means to them and what he means to the school. And again, to Ryan's point, it's a village and everybody matters, right? And it's great that our kids are developing that sense of community with everybody on the school campus. It's special.
Absolutely. All right, Chris, is that it? All right. I too attended Wade Thomas's and Hidden Valley's open houses, but unlike Julie, I didn't get to make it into every classroom. I tried, but I will say that what I was able to see it just blew my socks off in terms of, as Julia talked about, the the pride and the happiness. And a lot of our open houses have shifted to be earlier, so they're not necessarily a culmination of the end of the year, but they're in real time. So to listen to students talking and taking their parents through partially completed work or projects, as well as those that are completed, and the scavenger hunts, and just the enthusiasm. I don't know if as I'm getting older, getting away more from my kids being in school and remembering their open houses, but there's something different I'm hearing more recently this year in particular of the amazing questions that the parents are asking their kids and commenting on related to what is going on in the classrooms. The engagement is really huge. And to see then the just beautiful interactions between the children, the families, and their teachers. And to do open houses, they are exhausting. They really are, to put those on for the teachers. It's getting everything prepped and ready, and you have a very short amount of time because during the day you're teaching and then that night. So you do as much prep as you can, but it is, and it's a highlight, whenever you do something fabulous and amazing, it does take something out of you. But looking forward to now Brookside's this week, tomorrow night, as Julia mentioned too. And mentioning also that we have upcoming music and band 5th and 6th grade concerts starting next week. It is amazing. So thank you, Malik, for being here to...
I'm here on behalf of my team because they all have children.
Very good. And what you all do with bringing the 5th graders and the 6th graders together, they've never practiced before.
Together.
But together. They practice,
hopefully.
Yes, they practice, not together. And it is beautiful and phenomenal, the music they make together. It is just outstanding. So I'm looking forward to making it to those. We've already talked about JIPA. Looking at, so we had that meeting last night, and they are coming up with 2 call nights coming up. Daniel, you mentioned in the prior board meeting, the special meeting, around Battle of the Bands. So those tickets are on sale. It's this Saturday, and they did change the venue, but it means you don't have to take a bus to get out there, and it's in San Rafael. So hopefully they will have a strong attendance with that. And they have the call nights because it's their last push for fundraising for the year. And so they asked if I would please reach out and see if there's anybody in this room or anybody who they might be able to tap or you might be interested. It's this next one is next Tuesday, 4/23 from 5. I'll get you the details if you're interested at all. And it's at the Ryan, your realtor. 11 Realty Company in Fairfax on Bolinas. And so, but I'll get you the details if you're interested at all. And so that's a really important night. The data that they've taken is the call nights make a big difference in their fundraising. And they told me it's fun. I take their word for it. I haven't done one for many years, but I do plan to do either this next Tuesday or the one in May. But if there's any of you, they're looking to do their last push of raising $200,000 to get to their $1 million goal. So $200,000 will take them to their goal. Come on!
That'd be the first time.
Yeah, it will be. That's, I think, would be the most that they've been able to raise. So that would be huge. They are looking at making some changes next year into their board membership as well as the committee structures that they have, because it is on the backs, all of their efforts on the volunteers. And so to make sure that there's a robust group, and looking at changing up strategies too, because you do the same thing over and over again, but how to really look at what you do and how you do it and do it differently to be the most effective. So looking forward to that. Superintendent's Council we had on the Friday before the break, April 5th, and we had 2 topics on that agenda. The first one was to give input into the LCAP for the 24-25. It's a new LCAP. And so looking at being more data-focused, data-driven in developing our goals and our action steps related to that. And I, again, am just amazed and so grateful to our parent, guardian, leadership members who are really engaged in these conversations and give us great input and feedback for what we do. And also the second topic we looked at was getting feedback from them, and I did mention this in our special meeting earlier, around what elements of our RVSD, that's a draft attendance plan, what do they, because they're parents and guardians, so what feedback and input do they have for us that we can use in developing our plan that's going to make the most amount of difference. But as I mentioned earlier this evening, being a warm, friendly approach, not punitive at all. We're not looking in any way, but we do, for various reasons, need to increase our attendance rates. We know that when kids are in school, they learn, they do better socially, emotionally, their well-being is stronger, and it does impact our district revenues. And so when we think about also the impact, and I didn't say this earlier, but I know from being a teacher and knowing what our teachers do, and we talked about this, the way that the state funds education is based on attendance, not enrollment. If a child misses school, that teacher is still responsible for that child, catching them up on whatever work they may have missed, helping to acclimate them back into the classroom. And so kids being absent also takes a toll on the teachers who welcome them back into their classroom. And when we know that if there's a large amount of absenteeism, you have to structure your lessons differently to account for the missed instruction. And so are we really taking our kids as far as we can take them when they're not in school every day? So what is going to be the secret sauce to help us to improve our attendance? And the biggest benefit of all is for the children's learning and to our revenues and our children's well-being. So we will have our plan finalized by the end of this school year. There are elements that we're already practicing with as kind of pilots so that we can see what's effective. And then I can't read the parent guardian ed was fantastic. I couldn't stay for the whole time, but it was great. That next one, when you see it in your emails, please, if you can attend it, it is amazing and fabulous. Tell all your friends. Dr. Lori Watson is out of this world. Amazing.
If we want to participate.
Absolutely, you can. And all of you can attend this because it's an activity. You're not going to be talking about or doing any district business. There's no Brown Act violation. So 5 trustees could show up, or more than 2. Yeah. So on your own equity journey, there you go. All right, I think I've covered everything, and with that, cabinet rests.
All right, great. So moving on, we have closed session coming up next. There is an option to have public comment on closed session items. You may only comment on those closed session items should you wish. So yes, to identify those closed session items here, let me do that now, excuse me. The public comment, it's public employee discipline, dismissal, release, and or reassignment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, all employee groups, CSEA, RVTA, confidential classified management, certificated management, and public employee performance evaluation title Superintendent pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. So those are our closed session items that you may comment on in public comment time,
What's that first one that you said?
Public discipline, dismissal, release, and or reassignment.
And that's for students, like, or
employees.
Okay. That's it. I just want to know if it was about the students or them. Okay.
Nope.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for
staying.
I'll see you next week.
See you next
Alright.
week.
Okay.
Let the music play.
Thanks for coming.
Thursday, 6 o'clock. 5:30.
We'll be there.
Close this, right?
Yes. All right, so at 9:03, we are going to, there's no public comment, and we are going to recess into closed session at 9:03. All right, and it is 10:26, and we are reconvening out of closed session into open session at 10:26. There was no action taken or nothing to report out on items number 4 and number 5 on our closed session agenda items. For the third agenda item, the board took action to non-reelect one probationary certificated employee for the 2024-2025 school year and gave direction to the superintendent to provide the employee with any and all related notices. The vote was unanimous with all members present and voting. And with that, we are going to move on to meeting review. Do we have any future board topics and board direction?
No.
Okay. Meeting debrief. All right. And
The one thing, Rachel, I appreciated when we were sitting up here, and I think it reminded me to be cognizant of this, is that especially when we're having conversations and we're not coming to like consensus for you said there was, I forget what the topic was, but you're like, I can only speak for myself, this is kind of what I think. And it just reminded me for us to be thoughtful about representing ourselves in that. So
thank you. And with that, we don't need to continue past 10:30 because it's 10:28, and I'm going to adjourn our meeting at 10:28.